How's it going, duelists? My name is Senkara, and today I am here to show you the best cards to come out of the Dark World structure deck. This deck has some pretty crazy cards, and to go through it, I'm going to go through the best picks for Dark World decks on their own, and then the best cards out of this deck for any deck that you might run, whether it be a meta deck, a casual deck, anything. This deck has a lot of great cards in it, so stick around to find out which ones the best are, and if you haven't bought the Dark World structure deck yet already, this video is going to show you if it's worth it. Okay, so starting off with the best cards for Dark Worlds themselves, we of course have to talk about the new fusion monster Grapha, Dragon Overlord of Dark World. This card is absolutely insane. Not only does it allow you to basically negate your opponent's card effects, but it also then causes your opponent to force you to discard. In other words, you get to get off the Dark World effect that activates when your opponent makes you discard them. And on top of all that, if your opponent manages to get rid of Grapha by any means necessary, you just summon the original Grapha. This card is crazy, being able to just spam out more monsters and negate your opponent's card effects and get you discards with the most powerful effects of the Dark World monsters. The only downside of this card is that it is unfortunately a fusion monster, but with the new cards in the structure deck, he's not so hard to get out. The next cards to talk about is once again one of the new ones, Rainbow Overking of Dark World. I've put this card here with Grapha, the original Dragon Lord of Dark World, because these two are both pretty good for about the same reason. They are the deck's main boss monsters aside from the new fusion monster, and they are easily summoned by returning one of your Dark Worlds from your field to your hand, which is a pretty great effect, and then you special summon a powerful monster straight from the graveyard. They both have level 8, meaning you can overlay them for a rank 8, and they both have very high attack points, with Rainbow coming in with 3000. I would say that in most situations, Rainbow is probably better than Grapha. However, I would recommend having both of them in the deck. The only reason I say that Rainbow is better is first of all because his attack points are obviously higher, and also his effect is more useful in the grand scheme of things. When he's discarded, you can add a level 5 or higher Dark World monster from your deck to your hand, and if he was discarded by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Dark World monster from your deck or graveyard to either field, which both of these effects are pretty crazy. However, the reason you would want Grapha is because Grapha can target, when it's discarded, it can target any card your opponent controls and destroy that target, which is obviously a great effect. Plus, its second effect is not so great. When it's discarded by an opponent's card effect, you look at a random card in your opponent's hand, and if it was a monster, you can special summon it to your field. That is a little bit too random for my taste, but its first effect to get rid of your opponent's cards is obviously a great card effect, but it only works if your opponent has cards to get rid of, and it's only that useful if you want to get rid of your opponent's cards, whereas Rainbow's effect will always be useful. Next up, one of the most insane new cards to come with Dark World structure deck, we have Dark World Archives. This card is crazy. First of all, it lets you discard a Dark World once per turn during your main phase. That is already reason enough to run this card. That is fantastic. And when you do, the Dark World monsters you currently control gain attack points equal to the level of the discarded Dark World monster times 100. So this not only boosts your monster's attack points, allowing you to go for a vicious kill with one of your boss monsters, but it also lets you discard a Dark World from your hand, getting off your Dark World's card effects. And on top of that, its most insane effect by far. If a monster whose original type is Fiend is discarded from your hand by the effect of a Dark World card or an opponent's card effect, even during the damage step, you can discard one card to draw 2 cards. This card is crazy for Dark Worlds, getting off so many discard effects and then allowing you to draw 2 cards on top of that, cycling through your deck super fast on top of that with the other Dark World draw spells like the Field Spell Gates of Dark World. Dark World Archives is pretty insane. Next up, we have to talk about the other new card, Dark World Punishment. This new counter trap can negate a normal or special summon and destroy the monster that would be summoned. Then it also allows you to discard a Fiend monster, which of course will get off all our Dark World effects. Its other effect is not as fantastic, but it's still a pretty great graveyard effect. If a Dark World monster you control would be destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. Completely negate the destruction. This card is pretty crazy. I mean, I don't have to tell you that negating normal and special summons is fantastic, and you don't even need to do anything. You just activate the card. You don't need to control a Dark World or anything, you just need to be able to discard a Fiend monster afterwards, which is... that's hardly even a cost. Finally, an oldie but a goodie, we have to talk about Snow, Unlight of Dark World. Snow has always been a staple in the Dark World deck. Being one of the best cards to run in Dark Worlds, her discard effect allows you to add any Dark World card from your deck to your hand. This includes any of your Dark World monsters or any of your new Dark World spell or traps. Alright, that wraps it up for the best cards for the Dark World deck itself. Next, let's look into the best cards from the Dark World structure deck that can go in any deck. First, we have Deck Devastation Virus. This card isn't as insane, but it is still very powerful, especially in today's meta. This card will allow you to tribute a dark monster with 2000 or more attack, look at your opponent's hand and all monsters they control, and all cards they draw until the end of their third turn after this card's activation, and then any monster with 1500 or less attack among those cards gets destroyed. In today's day and age, a lot of the most powerful cards have 1500 or less attack. This card can get rid of any of your opponent's hand traps, get rid of your Ash Blossom, get rid of the Ghost Ogre, get rid of Effect Veiler. Any of those cards gets destroyed by Deck Devastation Virus, and most of your opponent's starter monsters, most starter monsters in any deck, will likely have 1500 or less attack, and this card can immediately destroy them. This card also goes fantastic with the Dark Worlds being able to tribute Rainbow and Grapha, who can then revive themselves. Next, we want to talk about Lilith, Lady of Lamin, and Absolute King Backjack. These cards aren't so great in the Dark World structure deck by itself, however, these cards can be fantastic in any deck that runs trap cards. These cards are great for searching trap cards and just for cycling cards through your deck, getting through your deck faster, getting your normal traps out, because you don't really... normally you don't want to have to draw into your normal traps, so searching them out is a lot better with these effects. Next up, of course, some of the best cards to come with the Dark World structure deck is the Dangers. The Dangers are crazy. These guys were insane for a reason. These guys go great in any deck, being able to cycle through your deck really quickly and special summon powerful monsters. I would say that the best Dangers to come out of this deck would be Danger Bigfoot and Danger Mothman. Danger Mothman is great because if he's discarded, you get to basically activate Dark World dealings. Both players draw a card and then discard one card. This is obviously fantastic if you're running Dark Worlds, and great for any deck that wants to draw out more cards. Danger Bigfoot, however, has 3000 attacks, so if its effect goes off, you get a 3000 attack point beat stick. That is pretty crazy on its own, but also if this card is discarded, then you can target a face-up card your opponent controls and destroy that target, which I don't have to tell you is a fantastic effect. Danger Thunderbird does something very similar, being a 2800 attack point monster, but it destroys set cards instead. This can be great, especially if your opponent runs a lot of traps, however in most situations, Bigfoot will probably be the way to go. Next up, I want to talk about Drag Down into the Grave as well as Mind Crush. These cards may not seem that great on the surface. Generally, back in the day, especially if you're a new player, these cards probably don't look so good, but if you look into it a bit more, these cards are pretty crazy. They allow you to not only look at your opponent's hand, but force them to discard their hand traps or anything that you think they might have. This one will let you look at your opponent's hand and pick a card to discard even if they don't have a hand trap. This one will allow you to guess that your opponent has an Ash Blossom or their starter. If you're going into game 2, you can work out what their hand probably has based on the first round, and then Mind Crush it immediately to get rid of their starter card, which is fantastic. Or you can just use either of these to chuck out your opponent's Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, any sort of hand trap that they might have that could slow you down. Both of these cards are absolutely fantastic and can be run in any deck, especially during Game 2 to side deck in. Finally, of course, the best card to come in the Dark World structure deck is the reprint of Skill Drain. Skill Drain, I believe, is still at 3 nowadays. It's gone back to 3, and this card is absolutely insane. I shouldn't have to tell you, if you've gone up against a Skill Drain, you know that this card is nuts. This card is a pain in every duelist's side. Skill Drain is ridiculous. Skill Drain will negate the effects of all monsters on the field, and if you're running a deck that doesn't really need effects on the field, like the Dark Worlds, Skill Drain is an absolute must-have. You gotta just run 3 Skill Drains if you have the capacity for it. If you're running Eldritch, Dark Worlds, friggin' even BES, that's how it's, I lost the word for a minute there, even BES, Boss Rush deck, can massively, like, just run 3 Skill Drains. Skill Drain is an insane card, a very powerful card, stops a lot of meta decks in its tracks. Skill Drain is a must-have from the Dark World structure deck. Alright, so there you have it. Those were the best cards to come out of the new Dark World structure deck. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and a comment down below and share it with a friend who might enjoy. I hope this video was at least useful to you if you have bought the Dark World structure deck and just wanted to know what the best cards to go for were, what cards you should include in your Dark World deck or any deck. And if you are deciding whether or not to buy the new Dark World structure deck, then I hope this video was helpful to you as well. If you have got the Dark World structure deck or have decided to buy one for yourself, then be sure to subscribe and check out the playlist at the end of this video. Just the other day I did a video showing off how to run this deck just on its own, and next week we'll be going into how to combine 3 Dark World structure decks into one very powerful deck on a budget. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. My name has been Senkara, and until next time, see ya.